Derby Wars, racing's biggest contest site, is now even bigger, with more than 200 games every day. Check out Survivor, Derby Wars' hottest new game. It's fun, easy to play, and for just $4 you could win $1,000. Just pick a horse to finish first, second, or third, and advance to the next race. With daily payouts and games starting every hour, you'll see why fans are racing to play Survivor. Go to DerbyWars.com now, use promo code Survivor to get 5 free Survivor games with your first deposit.
Hi, welcome to another edition of HorseCenter. It's a Kentucky Derby Watch version of HorseCenter. Once again, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast, Matt Shipman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm great, Brian, and we're 19 days. That's hard to believe, Brian. A mere 19 days until the Run for the Roses.
Where has the last 340 some odd days gone, Matt? We're flying to another Kentucky Derby. And speaking of flying, how about Creator coming from last, Matt? He was 12th and last for a big chunk of the race, but he flew home. Trainer Steve Asmussen, jockey Ricardo Santana, and the gray son of Tepin looked good winning the Arkansas Derby.
Sure did. Another one of those big closers at the track at Oaklawn Park, and I don't know if it throws a little bit of chaos into the Kentucky Derby picture, but it just adds in another horse with that closing move who could make some noise coming down the stretch in the Derby.
Yeah, it seems like we have more of those type of horses than usual, Matt. I'm thinking of Brody's Cause and My Man Sam and the Arkansas Derby horses, to name a few more. Sudden Breaking News, who was second. Maybe even Whitmore. Whitmore had a little trouble coming out of the gate in the Arkansas Derby. He ran another good race. He seems to always have a little trouble. But there are a lot of closers pointing for the Kentucky Derby, and I don't know that's necessarily a good thing for all the closers to have so many closers. It only gums them up a little bit more back there. But Creator, 6 races to win his maiden. He kept rallying in all these maiden races, but he has just really put it together in the last 3 races, Matt. Won a maiden race by more than 7 lengths, came flying for third in the Rebel. And we should talk about the pace, I think, a little bit. The Rebel had not a whole lot of pace, but he still rallied big. And now the Arkansas Derby had quite a bit more pace. And I think that was part of the story on Saturday, Matt.
Yeah, no doubt. With Gettysburg getting out there and setting some healthy fractions, 22 and change, and then 46, and the 6 furlong time was fast when you're talking about going 2 turns, and it's set up perfectly for Creator. And now Steve Asmussen has got a second horse in the Derby. It's another Tepin in the Derby. Like we're saying, a lot of stuff sounding the same about a lot of horses this year. Yeah,
a lot of grays, a lot of Tepins, a lot of ralliers. Asmussen now has the Arkansas Derby winner and the Louisiana Derby winner, not the same horse. He also has Gun Runner. Because of the pace, it kind of cooked Cupid. Cupid was the favorite. Cupid had to work and chase Gettysburg, mentioned, through those fast fractions. Cupid didn't run a lick. He's got enough points off his Rebel win. I wonder if he'll be a horse that is a possible defection after this poor performance, finishing way back in the Arkansas Derby. Any opinion there, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, certainly when I was looking at the top 20 list, because you and I well know, Brian, that there will be defections, and then we're going to lose one horse or a couple horses. Someone's going to spike a fever. Someone's going to, come up with a couple aches and pains. And
sounds like you're talking about us, Matt, spiking a fever and aches and pains. You're talking about the horses or us?
Well, now that you mention it, I've had a lot of both this spring, Brian. But I am talking about the horses, and I think we're going to get 2, 3, maybe 4 of the horses that are below the number 20 mark, which is now Trojan Nation. The Maiden, who finished second in the Wood Memorial, is holding that number 20 spot with 40 points. Either way, it seems like we're going to have way high total of points to get in the Derby this year. It's never been more than 20 or 22, and I think we're going to be way above that.
Yeah, it looks like it. And we're going to talk about these bubble horses in just a second. Arkansas Derby creator, sudden breaking news. A lot of people like sudden breaking news. He's that late runner, comes flying every time. Whitmore still has fans with his impressive moves he makes, although probably not able to hold it down the stretch of these last three races. And Cupid, Matt, do you think any of these horses are serious threats to win the Kentucky Derby? Maybe serious threats to run in the money in the Kentucky Derby?
Serious threats to get in my trifecta ticket, Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you wholeheartedly, Matt. None of these horses are going to be one of my top horses as win threats. They did not finish the race fast. It was 150 and change after those fast fractions. I do think Creator is quickly improving, and he is a horse that wouldn't shock me. But I think all of them, Creator, Sudden Breaking News, mostly, and maybe Whitmore too, are all threats to hit the board, again, benefiting from tiring horses at 1.25 miles.
Yes, absolutely. And even though it seems like we were just saying that there are a lot more of these closers, there's going to be enough horses in there that like to be more forwardly placed, that will put enough pace in the race for those closers to come running.
I think so too, Matt. I think we're going to get a decent pace, probably a faster pace than maybe the last two derbies. We won't have the quality of speed that we had last year. So I think we might have a really spread out field as they're going into that first turn at Churchill Downs and down the backstretch. And you could see horses falling 25 lengths back, but getting into the picture late. I agree. Speaking of getting into the picture late, let's start talking about bubble horses, because the bubble did get a little tighter around the girth of some of these horses after the Arkansas Derby result, because Creator wasn't in the top 20, Sudden Breaking News wasn't in the top 20, and Whitmore wasn't in the top 20. So Mo Tom's the biggest one for me. He dropped all the way to 21, followed by Fellowship at 22. We have Adventist at 23, and Laoban. Now, I talked to Eric Guillot briefly at Keeneland this weekend, and he said he wants in if Laoban can get in, and he would be more speed.
Yeah, but Brian, you talked to Eric Guillot. It really wasn't a brief conversation, was it?
It was quick because we both wanted to eat at the time, so we didn't talk too much. Yeah, Laoban might be the horse most likely not to get in of the horses I just mentioned at number 24 because of tiebreakers. Mo Tom, though, 21. I think you and I think in fact, I know I want to see Mo Tom in the Kentucky Derby. Over a maiden. You mentioned Trojan Nation. I want to see Mo Tom in. Right now, 21. Is he going to get in, Matt?
I think he's going to get in. And like you mentioned before, it was Mo Tom, Fellowship, and Adventist who were in the top 20 before the Arkansas Derby that got bumped down. Yeah, and I'm with you, Brian. I want Mo Tom in there. Mo Tom is an important horse for me getting in. And I think Mo Tom's going to get in. I think 2 or 3 at least are going to get in.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the over under at between somewhere between Fellowship and Adventist for getting in. I would like Fellowship's chances at number 22 to get in. So this bubble isn't too hard right now. Adventist might be the odd horse out, and I don't know if he's ready for the Derby anyway. Fellowship, I know a lot of people like him. He keeps rallying for third in these Florida stakes. He's moved to the Mark Casse barn. I'm not big on him right now, but he's an interesting horse. I think he would take some play. But for me, it's all about Mo Tom. And right now, I think at 21, Matt, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's got about a 90% chance to draw in some way, whether it's a trainer decision, connection decision, or some sort of physical defection.
Yeah, so I think we both kind of agree the around 2 or 3 of the bubble horses are going to make it in.
They're going to make it in, and we all want Mo Tom, the number 1 bubble horse, in. All right, Matt, speaking of horses that are on the outside looking in for the Derby, I thought the Lexington Stakes provided a very impressive winner. Bob Baffert trained horse who's won 3 stakes in his last 4 races. His name, of course, is Collected. He ran very fast at Sunland Park, 2 starts back, and he just dominated the Lexington gate to wire, basically.
Yeah, he crushed that field, and I think we were all expecting to see a lot more from Swipe. I don't know. I think maybe we were expecting to see Swipe win in the kind of way that Collected did, but it was Collected, and Swipe was a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, Swipe doesn't have the speed that Collected does, so I think it was always a harder task for him. Collected just sat in second and was ready to pass that horse at will whenever he needed to, and he did, and no one came on the short stretch. Swipe was honestly a little closer than I thought he would be early, and maybe that wasn't a good thing. He ran sixth, kind of in the middle of the pack. We could certainly expect big improvement next time, but it was a disappointing performance. I don't know, maybe they still try to get one more prep in and try to run in the Belmont, but he'll have to do a whole lot better. Now, Collected, I think, as good as he's looked to me the last two times, he handled Gettysburg easily at Sunland, and then this field he could have won by, I guess he won by 4, but it could have been more. He becomes an interesting new shooter because he's down at 25 right now, I believe 25 or 26 for the Derby list. So I think he becomes an interesting new shooter with pace for the Preakness.
Yes, he certainly does, and we love that angle, looking at the new shooters when we're heading to the second leg of the Triple Crown.
Yeah, Motom 21 Collected outside of the top 24. I think these are horses that are probably top 10 quality for the Derby. So maybe the points system has some questions to answer as far as who's getting in, who's not getting in, and is the system the best to decide the best 20? Right now, I wonder if it's top heavy to those later races where a second in a Muddy Wood Memorial, yes, Trojan Nation, I'm talking to you, gets you in when maybe you don't deserve to get in. So something we'll talk about a little bit more in the future, Matt. Speaking of not getting in, bad news last night came from Facebook. Rick Porter, Fox Hill Farm Facebook site announced that Songbird spiked a low-grade fever after the Santa Anita Oaks. They don't want to push her. They don't want to ship her when she's not 100%. Songbird will not be in the Kentucky Oaks. Matt, what was your first thought when you heard that?
I had two immediate thoughts. The first one was disappointment that I'm not going to get to see Songbird in person on Derby weekend. I think everybody that's going to be there that weekend was looking forward to seeing the Super Horse run. But then, assuming that we all thought that she was going to win the race easily, I guess the Kentucky Oaks is a lot more interesting race now, and all kinds of wagering possibilities are now open up. Before, it was probably going to be tough to play one of our favorite wagers, the Oaks Derby double with Songbird in there, but now it becomes a way more interesting prospect.
Yeah, we won't have a heavy favorite, although one of our personal favorites, Rachel Alexander's daughter, Rachel's Valentina, might actually be the favorite off her game second. She was second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, but she more recently was a game second in the Ashland in her only race so far at 3. Rachel's Valentina could be the favorite. Still not the easiest spot in the world for her, so wide open now. I think long shots become more into play in the Oaks. Oaks Derby double. I also favor a pick 3 that involves the Woodford Reserve. So yes, the Oaks does look like a much more interesting betting race because I didn't think Songbird was going to lose the Oaks. I think she's the most talented 3-year-old in the country. Hopefully we'll see her back. Nice to see the connections kind of not push on her at all, just for the Oaks' sake, and make sure that their filly is 100% when she gets back into the starting gate.
Yep, certainly they're making the right call there.
Speaking of super fillies, I guess she's graduated to super mare. Matt, Tepin, did you get a load of Tepin on Saturday afternoon at Keeneland on the turf in the Grade 1 Jenny Wiley running a track record and just looking as great as she's ever been?
I tell you what, Brian, I love me some Tepin. That's the way I like to see a great racehorse run. I mean, she did it effortlessly, and there was never any question that she was going to win, but she ran hard and she ran fast. New stakes record, almost a new track record. I love that. I love to see the best horses run their best races and perform for the fans. Bravo to Tepin. And hey, Julian Leparoux is the perfect fit on Tepin. And wow, did he have a weekend? And is he having a Keeneland meeting, as he usually does?
I just voted for Julian Leparoux as the jockey of the week on the Jockey 360 poll, Matt. Yeah, he is doing well, and since he's gotten on Tepin, which was the beginning of last year, she is just a foot or two away from being perfect in 10 starts. In an article I just wrote, basically her last races, turf races, her canvas, and she's painted 5 consecutive masterpieces. It's a joy to see her run. People are comparing her to Wise Dan. She's that good. She's deserving. She's going to run on Derby weekend. You'll get to see her live, Matt, here. We're not sure if it'll be the Distaff Turf Mile for a repeat of that race or maybe the Woodford Reserve. And then she might be on to Royal Ascot 2 starts out, and the world can get to see just how wonderful Tepin is. I'm with you.
Yeah. Knowing that she's going to be running Derby weekend, that's going to make it even more special. And hey, why not take a shot at Royal Ascot? Because I think she can handle it.
Yeah, best miler in the world. You know, a lot of people might give that to Solo, but Tepin is Tepin's going to be hard to beat. Solo hasn't raced in a while. I think that Tepin has a great chance to win if it's the Queen Anne in the middle of June at Royal Ascot. I think she has a great chance to do that. Speaking of Royal Ascot, Matt, there was another filly, another female turf horse who won at Keeneland this weekend, who's also going to go to Royal Ascot. Now, this might be her next race, but the Makers 46 Mile has never been won by a female before. Miss Temple City did it in pretty grand style as well.
She certainly did, and coming down the stretch, she was full of run, and she had to beat a very, very, very good horse on the lead there in Heart to Heart, and she went by him and opened up nicely, and she's earned a trip back to Ascot also, and maybe Miss Temple City is now living up to some of the billing that she had last year.
Yeah, well, last year, I mean, she ran good race after good race. She just wasn't getting to the winner's circle enough for everyone's taste. But she ran a lot of good races last year, and I think maybe she's just going to be bigger, stronger this year. Of course, she ran 4th, her only time out of the money in the Coronation Stakes at Royal Ascot last time. But she was right there with horses like Found, who were in the top 3 in that race. So it was a big performance. I was happy to see her beat good males. Like you said, Heart to Heart is no joke, and she was clearly best. Love to see her go over to Royal Ascot as well for Grand Motion and do well. Matt, there were plenty of good performances. We talked about Tepin, we talked about Miss Temple City, and down in Arkansas, that New York bred Effinex ran an effing good race as far as I'm concerned. That was a big performance. Mike Smith looked like he had the second choice measured the whole way.
I certainly did, and the Effinex that we got to know at the end of last year was back in force at Oaklawn Park. We drew a line through that race in California in the Santa Anita Handicap when he broke out in hives and the traveling coast to coast. He's a good horse, that New York bred, and it's good to see some horses showing up in the older male division.
Yeah, California Chrome might have some competition. Frosted couldn't do it. Maybe Effinex can do it. Effinex is just getting better and better. The son of Mineshaft, who of course was a late developing horse of the year. I didn't think he ran an 80 handicap. He hung a bit to be 3rd, but yeah, if it was the hives, hive free in Arkansas, he looked good. And Mike Smith, I know my friend Pete Aiello, the announcer down at Oaklawn, was talking about how easy Mike Smith looked like he had things handled. Despite only winning by a length, it was impressive. Effinex, maybe the second best handicap horse in the country right now. As far as the males, I don't want to forget about Beholder or Run Happy running short, but Effinex is quality, and he proved it again down in Hot Springs.
Yeah, he certainly did, and bravo for the New York breds.
Bravo for the New York breds. Yes, New York breds are doing well. We saw more New York bred stakes winners in open company this week once again. Matt, I'm going to be down in Charlestown next week for the Charlestown Classic. No big Derby preps for the first time in a while. But when we get back together on this show next week, I think we should talk Kentucky Derby. What do you say?
It's that time, and people should look for my next article on Horse Racing Nation, where I'm going to start to lay out the way I think the race is going to to play out, and I guess I'm going to start talking about maybe who my top pick in the Derby is this year.
I can't wait to read it, Matt. Way to promo yourself, but folks, that sounds like a good article. I'm really looking forward to another episode of HorseCenter next week. I hope you all join us. As always, we're brought to you by the best contest site in the world, Derby Wars. Matt, thank you for joining me today from New Jersey.
My pleasure. Have a great time at Chuckytown, and thank you, Ember Mar.
Ember Mar. We'll see you next week, folks.